What do you like about Deoksugung?
Yeah, well, I think that eclectic nature of it, the difference between the European influences and the Korean influences, is what makes it so charming and so different from the 4 other palaces in Seoul, that it has this more modern history. And you can see when other cultures were coming into Korea at the time through the architecture of Deoksugung, and I really think that's special. I have 2 favorite picks. The Breakup Road, which is actually outside of Deoksugung, and Jeongwan Hall, which is inside the palace.
And what about Jeongwan?
Jeongwan Hall? Hard to say. Yeah, so Jeongwan Hall is kind of that eclectic mix that I was talking about earlier, because it was designed in 1900 by a Russian architect named Savitan. And he was inspired by Korean imagery as well as European imagery. So it has a lot of European design elements incorporated with Korean motifs like bats, Korean deer, and of course dragons. And this was basically Gojong's living room. So it's where he had parties and listened to music and invited his guests to have a good time.
Yeah, I wish I was there then.
Me too. I wish I'd been invited.
And what about this Breakup Road? I don't want to be there.
Yeah, a lot of Koreans don't want to be there. So the Breakup Road is on the outer wall of Deoksugung Palace, and it has a myth that if you walk down the road with your partner, eventually you will break up. But that has historical significance because up until 1995, the Supreme Court, which was also home to the family court, was at the end of the road. So if you wanted to get a divorce, you would have to walk down that whole road and file for divorce. So there were lots of unhappy couples walking that way. Deoksugung, a lot of people don't talk about it that much, and it really stood out to me for a couple of reasons. One, Deoksugung literally translates to the palace of virtue and longevity. And that word longevity in particular reminds me of when it was built, which was mostly during the 20th century. So that was, when Japanese colonization was going on. And I think there was this real sense of, they really want the Korean Empire to continue and the Korean culture to live on. So when I think of Deoksugung, not only is it that nice blend of, modern history, but also that it kind of symbolizes a lasting Korea, which even though it was colonized by Japan, for 35 years, the Korean identity and the Korean culture remains so strong, and even the name Deoksugung represents that, in itself. And another thing is that Korea is often described as the hermit kingdom because it was so detached from the outside world, supposedly. But then you come to this palace and you see these buildings that have European influences and were home to European guests, and you kind of recognize that it wasn't as detached as everybody says it is. So going away from my studies with that in mind, I really felt like Deoksugung was special and unique and inspired me to kind of find my place in Korea, just like the guests at that time were doing when they were living here. And yeah, it's just different in that way. Now we're gonna go get some Korean late night food at a restaurant called The Story of the Blue Star, my absolute favorite restaurant located in Insadong, the traditional craft street of northern Seoul. So come down the alleyway and follow me. This is it. Look for the green sign. I found this place actually through a makgeolli brewing group in Seoul, and I noticed that it had a really interesting history. And the history is that the owner was a famous stage actor in Korea, but he loved makgeolli and chon, like Korean pancake, so much that he decided to open his own restaurant. Even though he's no longer a stage actor, he has lots of signatures and movie posters and stage posters from his friends and his colleagues that he worked with. So it has a really nice, cozy atmosphere.
what is your favorite thing to order? Well, let's get that.
The best stuff to order for a group, in my opinion, is the Korean pancake. They have lots of options like kimchi or potato or seafood, and also the tofu kimchi. They give you big pieces of tofu and different kinds of kimchi that you can eat with it, so it's really easy to share and really delicious.
And drinks?
Oh, makgeolli. So, like I said, the owner of the place, he really, really loves makgeolli. So he actually, before he set up the restaurant, toured all around Korea, tried makgeolli from different regions until he found his favorite ones, and those are the ones that he sells here. So they're really nice makgeolli, and makgeolli that you might not find in other stores in Seoul because they're from other parts of the country. Ooh, this is not a Turkish coffee place! Because I've lived here for a while now and I've traveled here so much, I'm getting the opportunity to explore a lot of the lesser known places, especially like the Korean countryside. Like Seoul is so hectic, so busy, and these days I find myself really drawn to like the grandmas and the grandpas in the countryside and how they live their life, and the natural food and the organic food and the different kinds of kimchi that you can get, you know? In terms of my personal goals, I'm trying to get a residency visa so that I can do any kind of work that I want. Also just feel more like I'm a part of this society. Right now I'm just teaching, so it's different from being a resident. I've been to lots of places in Korea, but I've never been to Gwangju in the south. Gwangju has a very tragic history, as you know, and yeah, I'd like to go there and pay my respects and learn about the history more, learn about the people more.
Wishing you the best of luck in New Year.
Thanks, you too.
And I cannot wait to hear more from you.
Thanks, you too. Say 복 많이 받으세요. Happy New Year.
Yeah, 새해 복 많이 받으세요.
Cheers.
Yes.